All right. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us again. We are having a lovely Wolfer Live episode. And just to let everyone know, we are very much aware that the content, especially of this one, may be critical to some, but certainly is not addressing some of the deeper, more um, real life concerns. But we hope that this will bring you a little bit of joy, a little bit of laughter, and perhaps a little bit of distraction while we're all sequestered at home. So I am thrilled to bring back Denise Tierney, my beloved Wolfer, who is going to talk to us today a little bit about love in the time of the plague. And I think this is something that we can kind of enjoy discussing. It's a problem-solving episode. It is something that maybe is something we can use after all of this is done. So Denise, first of all, I'm married for forever, so I can my time of the plague is more hands-on, but distance is our new challenge. And Denise is here to help us try to bridge that gap.
Tulani. Yeah, I just a little background about me around this issue is I have always had a superpower of being able to talk about sex, and I don't know why, but as a freshman in college, I would read from Nancy Friday's books to my girlfriends, and we would read erotica, and I introduced friends to talk about things like that. I got divorced in November of 2010, and I had a sexless marriage that almost literally changed the night I got married. We went to counseling for many years, and he pretty much went off sex when we got married and wouldn't do the things that were suggested to us in 12 of 18 years of marriage counseling to make it work. And I was 45 years old. I'm 57 now, but I was 45 and he was 52. I'm done having sex. I'm 45. I'm old enough. I don't need to have it. And she said, "What? You don't need to do that." I figured out that sex was going to be important. And there were a lot of mitigating factors in my divorce. It was a very difficult choice. And we're still friendly 9 years later. But I found sex after my marriage again. I found sex again after my marriage. And a girlfriend called me January after I got divorced and said, "I found the perfect job for you. I just went to a sex toy party last night that was fabulous." And the sex toy lady ended up being somebody who won a car every year. And she had a master's in history. She was a high school English teacher or a history teacher, doesn't matter. But I contacted her and I spent $1,000 on inventory in January of 2011. And by the end of 2011, I was the #1 new salesperson in the country. And I had sold $40,000 worth of sex toys on suggestion of my friend Julie, because Julie knew that I would be the one to explain sex stuff. And I did that into 2012. And I was able to fly back and forth to California from Texas to see my high school boyfriend who I'd gotten together with and was having mind-blowing sex. He was the first guy I'd had sex with. And I was able to use these toys. And because this was a man I had trusted since I was 14, I was able to expand with a partner. So I'd had this private sex life from childhood, but then I had a partner who was receptive, whom I loved and trusted. And that relationship ended until the fall of 2012. And that's when I ended up with cosmetology school. I needed something more concrete. It was either ramp up the sex toy business, which disallowed me from being able to date on weekends because my shows were on Fridays and Saturday nights. And it was also something I didn't want to have to explain to men. It was a very women-centric business for me. And it was about empowering sexually. And it wasn't about, "Oh, you sex toys." And I didn't want to have to tell people about it. Today, I've thought about doing it again. And I would approach men differently with it and my attitude. But at the time, 8 years ago, I chose to give it up. But it expanded my vocabulary. And I have had a man in my life since the first of the year, and we are isolated apart. And for the first time, I've really been able to take what I learned over the last 9 years of being single and sexual, combined with my sex toy knowledge and my superpower of being able to say vulva, vagina. You don't shave your vagina, you shave your vulva, girls. And I can talk about that, and I can talk about the clitoris is a shape like this, and it goes back to your anus. And I don't have a hard time using those words, but I had a hard time connecting being with a man and that vocabulary. And this man and I have been able to marry these together, and it's been phenomenal. And I wrote, Nina asked on the page, do you have any ideas? And I came up with 11 of them.
Would you please go through a few of the highlights of those? I mean, obviously everyone can read them on the app, but I think it'd be great.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm not going to go through them there, but I think one of the most important things is to set up a stage. I have said something in the middle of the day. I'll say, I'm thinking of a story that has to do with the convertible driving down 101. Or I have sent a picture of me pulling my jeans down and showing a red panty with my top pulled up. And I'll just do a titillating prelude of, I'm interested in you, and this is something I'm thinking about.
It sounds like, from what you're describing, it does sound a lot like erotica, meaning that you're giving just enough information that someone is titillated, to quote you, and to kind of engage them. And it's suggestive. It's not necessarily about being explicit. And I would imagine that that varies from person to person and couple to couple. And regardless of your orientation or the stage of your relationship, you need to kind of know your partner and know yourself and figure out not only what you're comfortable with, but also what's going to be the most appealing to your partner. So a lot of this, I think, also sounds like it comes back to, I don't know, the fundamentals of communication.
Right.
Another form of communication.
Right. This goes back to a book I probably fifth grade, I think our counselor gave us to us 15 years ago, called Sex Begins in the Kitchen. And it's mostly for men to remember that men are generally microwaves and women are generally crock pots, and we can change those positions and we can be differently, and we can both be microwaves and we can both be crock pots. But it's about, sex doesn't start, you don't get to get in bed with me and put your hand on my bottom and think that that's foreplay. And so I learned many years ago, further back, and start with foreplay. And so yes, a little bit of foreplay when you're apart, whether it's with your marriage or your partner or isolation partner, is important.
So I would imagine that getting ready for virtual relations is sort of similar to getting ready for in real life relations, meaning maybe there's a little bit of preparation, maybe there's a little mood setting, maybe it's about, first and foremost, and I think this goes back to what you were talking about with the sex toys, is about knowing yourself and knowing what makes you feel good, and then being able to convey that in some sort of digital way, because that's really what we're having to rely on. Although phone, going and talking to one another over the phone is also can be a really great opportunity for some of us to explore. And I think a lot of us have probably indulged in that before these times, but now even more so.
Right, exactly. Yeah, the first time this man said to me, do you want to talk in a couple of hours? I think we got off the phone at 8 or 8:30. You want to talk about 10 tonight? Do you want to, it said something like, it was very oblique, like, do you want to tell some stories, or do you want to tell a story? And I kind of was like, and I was quiet. I'm rarely at a loss for words. And I said, let me think about it. And I thought, no, not every relationship has to come to a conclusion for my forever partner, but every relationship has something to offer me. And I have triumphed and prospered and profited through every relationship I've had. And I thought, this might be a good experience to try. And so I said yes. And one of the points I had to do was say words aloud. And I'm going to suggest to anybody, I was not comfortable saying out loud, cock, pussy, put your cock, I'm on your. That was my growth opportunity. I could call it a vulva, but it wasn't my, and sometimes it's my cunny. That's a little word I learned in London. That was a cute word when I lived there. But whatever your word is, whatever your words are, I had to learn for myself how to use the words that I wanted to use in play.
So you said that you read erotica to your friends in college, and I know that I can say to anyone who's tuning in that I am an unapologetic lover of romance novels and erotica. And I found actually that through reading, I was able to kind of not only come up with different ideas of how to do things, but also different ways of talking about things or relating to all things sexual. And I also started to get a better definition of what was appealing to me and what I found was a turn on and so forth. And so I think now I know that reading some of the things that I read, I mean, I was like, my eyes were watering. I was, furtively looking around, practically like under the covers, and I'm in my 40s. So I can imagine that for some of us, it's maybe a little bit of a steeper learning curve, but it's one well worth, embarking on, because the more that I learned about myself through whatever avenue, and some of it may involve watching responsible pornography. If you go on the Wolfer website, we have a couple of links in the past about responsible pornography, or looking at photos, or reading erotica and so forth. But there are ways that you can really start to explore this with yourself first and foremost. And since I believe it's true that most of what's sexy happens in your brain, that's probably a really good launch pad for everybody. But maybe go on and tell us some more of your 11 points.
Well, so starting with the story is the first night, we really, we do this for about an hour. It lasts a long time. And I find myself, I'm actually more present having to talk about it rather than closing my eyes and feeling it and almost getting in my own head. I can have physical sex with a man and close my head, and I'm not as much there sometimes. I'm not as present, and having to talk about it. So what I've learned to be able to do is to say, I want your left hip on my, I want your left hand on my hip, and I want your right hand my ass. And I will tell him specifically what I want him to be doing. And we talk about, and now my face is in your hands, and I'm looking in your eyes, or whatever it is, whatever the words are. But one of the suggestions I want to use, want to make, is to use your words, and that will help me the next time I have physical sex, because I've been pretty good and I've had good sex. But while you're having this phone sex or video sex, to be able to say, I want you to put your hands on my breasts, put my breast in your mouth, talk about it, and he'll talk about it. And so we kind of vacillate between maybe the story that we had, the convertible driving down 101, and what we're doing. And then we talk about what we're doing kind of in the moment, what we're doing right now. And he'll tell me what he's doing with his body, and I'll tell him what I'm doing with my body. And then we'll talk about what we might be wanting to do in the future. I can't wait to do this with you in the future. And that helps bridge, I think, the distance issue. So my suggestion at this point is just to use the story maybe as a base point, but then talk about what you're doing in real life, how it feels. And that brings me to another point, is use your senses. I mean, I got ready tonight with date clothes. This is my, I have on a date shirt, feel really pretty. I've got on my Jimmy Choo perfume. I prepared for this talk as if I were going to be having sex, being flirty, or being sexual. And I think for phone sex or intimate remote sex, you have to prepare yourself the same way. But I will also tell you, I smell good. I will tell him I can smell us. We talk about that. We talk about feeling. I'm feeling it. My sheets feel. The weather's cool. Oh my gosh, my body is hot and my skin is cold. We're talking about temperature. We're talking about the room is hot. I mean, what are they? A couple of them here. I don't know. What are your other senses? tasting. I taste whatever the flavor is. I incorporate all 5 or 6 of senses with that. So that's important.
This is really an opportunity for everyone to kind of engage all parts of their system, so to speak, virtually. So in order to do that, you are going to have to, I mean, I think this is really great. I mean, maybe if your strong suit isn't actually verbalizing, this is where video comes into play, or still photography comes into play. But although please, if you indulge in that, please be very responsible, because we know that the cloud is not necessarily safe, yada, 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 disclaimer, disclaimer. But I like what you're saying about not only preparing yourself, but also trying to convey that to your partner. Now I have to ask, because this is just who I am, what's the funniest, least sexy moment you've had, if you can think of any, when you've been trying to engage in this with any partner?
Oh, we with this last experience, oh yeah, we were approaching orgasm and my phone died.
Oh, okay. So everyone, make sure your phone is charged or you have a cable.
That is a point. So yeah, we were laughing, and I yeah, so my phone died, and that was really unfortunate. So I had to, like, you know, charge my phone, and then we laughed and said we just had you know, coitus bonus interruptus.
Yeah.
We kind of like had to go off and laugh. I was like, sorry, babe.
It's kind of the opposite of a premature moment.
Yes, so we had a little laugh about that, which is kind of like real life sex. I mean, we had we listed in the very beginning of dating, one day we listed, what are your deal breakers in a relationship? And one of the deal breakers, we have like 15 or 16 that we came up with. I was interested. And one of his deal breakers was not being able to laugh during sex. So I think it's okay to laugh in sex. It's been fun. And we laughed about the queeps, you know, when you have a fart or your vagina has an air come out of it, you get a,
Right.
We have talked about how it's important to laugh during sex. So we laughed about this. The other thing that's funny, and a great suggestion that, I mean, it marries into a suggestion I have. So I use my voice to text. I'm texting him. I'm able to send some pictures. I might send some pictures of things that are happening, and I'm using voice to text. Well, his name has an F in it, and the phone put a PH in it. And I said, oh, oops, I know I'm with the right person. Sorry, voice to text, because look, you know, his name's John and I called him David. And that was kind of funny. So we had to laugh about voice to text with autocorrect, because I'm kind of like 40% looking at my words and 60% in my head, and my hand might be made up, and I'm looking at it going, oh, name. So that was funny. So we just laughed at it, because he goes, I knew it. He goes, I know. You know, I said voice. He goes, I know. We laughed.
Well, humor definitely, I think, has its place in the bedroom, very much so, because we are human physical beings and hilarious things are always going to happen. Or the, you know, the breakfast room or wherever it is that you choose to have your erotic moments. I have an Australian Siri who often doesn't fully understand me, and that's a challenge that I sometimes run up against.
Yeah.
So I can imagine the hijinks that you can have with your voice to text, you know, misunderstandings. Yeah. I guess I have one other question for you that kind of relates to all this is, so we get into this moment, which is finite, and then when this is all done and we get to see each other face to face, I mean, what then? I mean, do you continue? Do you add this in? Does this just become another component, dynamic, you know, facet of the relationship?
Yes, and all of that. And what we've, because we haven't seen each other for 5 weeks and don't know, it could be months. We don't, as he had said, we don't have a template for a pandemic. And so we're allowing the space to figure out, what will this look like? What would a sex life look like? What will our relationship look like? We don't know. And so I think that what I've had to do is stay in the moment with this because this will have definitely changed the relationship, physical, sexual relationship we had before this will be changed by so many factors when we finally see each other. And I don't know if I'll meet him and feel like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, let's meet for a cup of coffee. And I haven't had a hand in my vulva for 7 months, and I'm not ready to have you touch me. Although we've been having orgasms twice a week for a couple of hours. I don't know if it's going to be like, I'll see you. And, you know, we've laughed about me sneaking in. I've said, you know, I'm going to just, he doesn't always lock his door. And I said, I'm going to just sneak in one night at 10 o'clock, and that's going to be part of my fantasy. And you're not going to know if it's real or not. So I don't even know, like, would the first time I see him be like, boom, let's get this over with.
Right.
So
Well,
I
I
think
can imagine that the 10 p.m. sneak in with a masked marauder might not be the best. But it would.
having spent a couple decades in Texas, I would never do that because I have a fear of being shot all the time.
Very valid point.
But it did work as a fantasy, you know. But so I don't know. I think we all have to just keep our minds open and say, I don't know what it's going to bring, and I don't know where we'll end up. I don't know if we will have real sex. I don't know if we'll have coffee or drink a glass of wine and get it over with. I'm not sure.
Now, I think one wonderful aspect of this is that there are some couples who are sheltering in place together. And too much togetherness can also be a challenge. I know that I am, as someone who's very accustomed to being at home alone for the majority of the day, and now my entire family, whom I'm very grateful to have home with me and who I love very much, and am thrilled that we're all healthy. But being together like this can also put a different kind of strain on a relationship. And I think that some of these alternative ways of engaging can also help couples who are in each other's faces 24/7, because talk about losing the magic. When you see someone and you can't escape them and you can hear the toilet flushing and so forth, it's not always the sexiest time. So maybe employing some of these techniques with your at-home partner can also be a good thing. And then I would be remiss if I didn't say, you know, Denise and I are referring to he, but this applies to every single relationship. So every pronoun is represented here, and all of these things are applicable. So want to make sure that we're
right.
making sure that's everyone's
Anybody who knows that I am a complete LGBTQ ally, and that free mom hugs and everything else is very important. And that's when I said, when I have sex with a man, and anybody can have sex with whomever. So absolutely correct. Thank you for bringing that up. That was a point I wanted to make. I do want to show somebody, I want to show you guys something that has helped me a lot. It's a product. And I took a screenshot of it, and I'm going to show you these fishnet body stockings.
Oh my God, those are fabulous.
Okay, I want to tell you that these are on Amazon. And all you have to do is put in, they're so gorgeous. You have to put in fishnet bodysuit or body stocking, and this set I think is $12.99.
That's brilliant.
They come in regular size and in queen size, and I'm going to show you guys. I am going to show you. That's my body in one.
Oh, how gorgeous! Oh, that's
and I will tell you, it hides a multitude of sins. They're beautiful. I've worn one with a pair of jeans out before. I mean, I've worn them out with a bra, and I've worn them out with a skirt. But if you were taking photographs of yourself and you are uncomfortable doing that, I will tell you, get a body stocking, and everything's kind of hidden. They're crotchless, but your breasts are in, your stuff's not showing. I have a C-section scar. If you have anything that you are uncomfortable with your body, it kind of holds it all in and makes your legs look really great. And they're very, very sexy. So I wanted to give a suggestion. I bought 4 for $19.99, I think. And I use them to go out with a blazer and let them know. But they're also very, very helpful if you're taking photographs or you're standing or you're going to put on a pair of high-heeled shoes. They're magic in hiding stuff, especially for us women who are I've lost 21 pounds and I'm finally at a size I like, and my skin still looks like I'm 57.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that, everything comes back to trying to get to a place where we love and appreciate ourselves
Absolutely.
above and beyond everything else. Now, I know that a lot of the Wolfers are going to want to know, so maybe this is how we'll go out, but the sex toy business is a riveting topic of conversation. We're not going to go too deep into it because this will be public, but I think that most women have not spent enough time exploring the options that are available to them. And so maybe at this time of being locked inside, but still being able to get at home deliveries would be an opportunity for some of us to look into all of the different offerings and explore that. So I'm sure that if you are curious about this is something we can post about within the app so that we can maintain a modicum of propriety and
That's right. It's why it's why it's why I'm special guest, because I had to be careful. I have to be careful with this. And you're absolutely right. But it's funny because 2011 and 12, the advancement and the advent of women focused toys has exploded since I sold toys. My toys were internal toys. Only 15% of women generally will have an orgasm with penetration. And we have these wonderful, wonderful toys now, the Lilos and the different women's things that we have that are much, much more women focused. So if you've used something in the past or don't know about it, not everything is a rabbit. The rabbit was really our only option. It was an internal dildo that might go around, and there was a little guy that would go like this, and that was our only real option. We had a couple of things that I sold, but it was different shapes of male oriented internal things with a clit stem. And now we have all these wonderful things that cup you and mimic oral sex. And I really implore you to just look around, and we have had links and we've talked about this ad infinitum and other forums, but I'm really proud of women for getting into this arena and teaching us about our bodies in a way that even 8-9 years ago we didn't. So
absolutely, it's another form of female empowerment, and we're all for it 100%.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. And really point 11 was and maybe I can conclude with this, is you really are having remote sex in charge of your own orgasm. And that is another empowering thing, because going forward, if you learn to have sex, make love with a partner, but you're telling him or her or your person, whomever, what you're doing, and your own hand or your own toy helps you achieve orgasm, that is something that you might be able to marry going forward in real life. Because I, in the past, had a hard time saying, I'm not there. And the majority of women get to about 15/16 of orgasms. They're afraid of what's going to happen. They get in their minds, and then you have a down. And a woman will go up to 15/16 literally of an orgasm and stop. And I used to do it with my shows. And we don't know with a partner if we're going to go, "Baka, baka." You don't know. But you do. The point in having, and you should see my leg. I mean, the leg goes. The point in having an orgasm is to release. Yes. And you have to trust your partner with that. And I didn't know, and I couldn't have an orgasm for years with a partner because I didn't allow myself that release. And so now and I have had orgasms with partners since my divorce, but to be able to marry that, you are in charge of your own orgasm. You're not waiting for his hand or his penis or her mouth or their something to make you have an orgasm. You really are learning how to have an orgasm with a partner on your own, which is really what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's another gift you can give yourself, because you really truly are in charge. You're not going to say, well, my person is in charge of my orgasm, and if they love me, they will give me an orgasm, or if they turn me on, or if I want to have a one night stand, it's their job to give me an orgasm. Nap, nap, nap. It's your own. And this is the greatest lesson, to remind yourself that we are in charge of our own orgasm. Full stop.
I love that. I love that. And I do think that that is a wonderful place to leave it with everyone.
Thank you.
Thank Denise for coming back again. And I hope that everyone's picked up a few really useful pieces of information and also has enjoyed spending some time with both of us.
I love you still.
Have a wonderful rest of your week, Denise. And to everyone watching, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.